Good morning and welcome to Wake Up to Broker Up with Mark, episode number 21 for 2025. Last week, I talked about who's showing your listings. And I suggested that as a listing agent, you might want to be there. I know, radical, I know, extra work. But the rewards could be tremendous because nobody, with the exception of the owner, should know that property better than you and should be able to talk about that property to a prospective buyer better than you as the listing agent. So, today I thought I'd flip the script and talk about what it's like to show a buyer a property. So I want you to think about this, about going on a tour in a city that you've never been to before, and if you just walked around on your own, you might miss a lot of the important sights. You'd see the same things, but it wouldn't come to life. Why? Because you wouldn't have the description by the person that knows it best, the tour guide, and you'd miss it. That's akin to, as I said last week, a buyer's agent throwing open the door, standing there on their phone the whole time, not paying attention to the buyer as the buyer wanders through the property, and the buyer comes when they're done and says, yeah, it's okay, and they leave. It's not the same as you talking about the property and you making sure that the buyer understands the property, and you discuss how the property does or doesn't fit the buyer's needs that you know in advance. Why? Because you asked them, and because you communicated with them, and because you found out what their criteria was and what they were interested in their next property. So for me, it would start off right there in the front yard or in the front of the property, so that we would talk about, how do you like the way it sits on the property? How do you like where it is on the street? How do you like the fact that it's up above the street level and has a driveway that's sloped up? How do you like it because it's below the street level and it has a driveway that slopes down? Where is it in relation to the neighborhood in terms of water flow? And does it matter that they don't have a flat driveway? Does it matter that the property sits this way with a left-hand drive versus a right-hand drive? Wow, a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, too many buyer agents are not talking about any of that. They just drive up, meet the buyer there, and then they let the buyer wander through on their own without talking specifically about, does this property fit your criteria? Does this property work for you? Could you see yourself living here in this property? Once you open the front door, same thing. You're talking about the features of the property and how the property, and if nothing else, you're walking behind them, listening to their conversation and injecting things, because obviously some things are self-explanatory. This is a living room, this is a dining room, this is a kitchen, this is a great room, this is this. Sometimes that's very obvious, but what they say about that either prompts you as an objection, or maybe it's buying signs. And if you don't understand buying signs, you could show property from now till doomsday and never realize that 73 properties ago they were showing buying signs and you didn't pick up on them because you didn't engage them. That's what's happening in the marketplace with many buyer agents. They are not engaging them and they're not picking up on buying signals. It's not as easy as people think. We have gotten a bad reputation of being the door opener because so many agents just open the door. Mark's going to be your tour guide. Mark's going to bring it to life. Think about listening or watching a sports cast about something, baseball. We'll use baseball because it's baseball season. Baseball, and you got the sound down, and the game's just not as interesting as when you hear the banter between the play-by-play guy and the color guy. And it's the same thing with anything when you can listen to a baseball game on the radio and it comes to life even though you can't see it. Think about that as it relates to showing property. Might change your world. Might change their world. Might get you a buyer committed to a property sooner. Who knows? Now, on to this weekend. As you know, this is Memorial Day weekend, and I am not one of those people that's going to stand up here on soapbox and tell you not to say happy Memorial Day weekend or any of those things, because quite frankly, those who gave their life and sacrifice for the United States of America that we need to remember and honor this weekend wouldn't want me to, you know? because one of the things they want to do is protect our freedom to be us and to be individuals. So, remember the fallen. Memorial Day is a solemn day for those of us who know people who lost their lives in combat or in military service. Remember that. Enjoy your day, enjoy your weekend. Thanks for suffering through this long broker up. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.